So, hello everyone, and I hope you're all having a nice day. My name is Paulo Souza, and today I want to talk a bit about content projection in Angular. It is, for beginners, it is a kind of confusing topic. I was confused by it when I started, but it is very simple. Um, and it is the building block for reusable components. And okay, to demonstrate the concept and how it works, I created a simple app that I will show and apply the ideas here. First of all, what exactly is content projection? It's basically when you get an external template and you pass it dynamically to your component to be rendered inside it. It's how Angular calls passing child components. It is a simple concept. So the app that I've built here is a mock of a social network, and it just has the feed page with posts here, user posts. It just has this one, and okay, we have a container for the content, and here we use the feed item component. The feed item is just a top section which shows the date and the author's name, the body which has the content, and the bottom section which has some action buttons here. Currently, we only have the default one, the share button. So, how can we use content projection? Imagine that for reasons people want a image post. People want to post images on the website. How could we do it cleanly? We could just add the post object here, which we use to render. We could say that the content can be a string, or it could be an object which receives an URL and some alternate text. And then inside the component where we use actually the content property, actually, we could do some if else's or switch statement to render specific tags or components for each post type. But that wouldn't be too great. Instead, we can reuse the feed item component and project the specific content that we want in the body section. Okay, so how exactly would we do it? First of all, since we're going to have text posts and image posts, we can generate them. A text feed item component and a image feed item component. So the text item component, which is this one, we would be able to project this specific data inside it. So how would we specify to Angular that we want to do it? We would use the ng content tag, which says that all the children of this component will be placed here when it is rendered. For example, if anywhere else, I would use a feed item component, this one, and I passed, I don't know, a div that said hello. It would be the exact same as doing this. Know what I mean? So now now that I saved the component, this will be empty because in the app component, the feed component, we don't pass any child components here. So it just gets empty. Then, since we aren't handling content here anymore, we can remove this property because who will handle the content rendering logic are the specific feed items component. So the text feed item, we could do the following. Let me remove some boilerplate here. Okay. how would we use the app item, the feed item component? Use it here. We would pass the post as a property. Okay. And we will just forward the post that this component gets as a property. So let me just copy this. You wouldn't do this actually, but for simplicity purposes. Okay, so the text feed item component will have the string content because it's just text. So we forward the content of this post to the basic feed item component that I was showing before. And as a child, we will pass a span containing the text, the post.content. Okay. So, wait a second. Okay. Now in the app component, we will change the feed item to be a text feed item specifically. So when we do it and we save this and Angular reloads, there it is. There's our text, just like it was before. But now, who handles the actual text rendering logic is the text feed item. Cool. But now we want to do the image feed item, which people requested. And here we could do the exact same for the text feed item. It will get a post as the input here. But in the image component, we want the content to be an object which has the image, URL, and the alternate text. And here, we will use the same feed item component, and we will project the image content in it. So we can use an image tag with the source, which will be the post content source URL. And the alternate text. Okay, so now we have the image post. We can add it to the feed. Let us create a new property to be the image post. We'll have that kind of content that we defined, the URL, and the alternate text. So when we use the image feed item, and we pass the post, the image post. There we go. We have the post here. Oh, shucks, sorry. For the post here. So here it is. Here's our image post. Very simple, and reuses the same basic feed item component. And that's basic. I mean, every front-end framework will have this. But okay, now let's say that people want different buttons. I mean, on the text component feed item, we would want a copy action button to copy the content. And on the image one, we would want a download button. So, okay, we could do the same thing as we did for the content. We could pass them as child components. But we've already used the ng content tag here. So all child components would be here. but we want the action button to be here at the bottom section. How could we do it? Well, we could select what component we want to use, what elements, child elements, we want to place in which content tag. So here, in this content tag, body, I want to select all elements that have the content attribute. Save, the content will disappear because, as we can see on the feed items, we don't have any elements which have the content attribute. But if we add it, you can see that it gets back because Angular selects the ones which have the attribute and puts on the places them on that tag. So let us do the same for the text. Okay, there we go, just as before. But now we have different slots, and that's the exact name of this technique. What we saw before without the select was called single slot projection, because we only have one place that the components will be placed. But now use it to select other components. Let's say that we want to select components which have the item action attribute. Now for the text component, we wanted it to have a copy button. So we can add the copy button here. And if we pass the action attribute to it, Angular will select it and place it on the second ng content tag. Just like this. Here's the copy button. And if we wanted to do the same for the image download button, we'll do the exact same. There it is. So that's multi-slot projection. Pretty cool. But okay, that's already a lot. But we still have one trick up our sleeve, which is conditional projection. Let's imagine that for some reason we want to change the default action for components. Here we have the share as the default. But let's say that for the text component, I want this button to be a, I don't know, thumbs up button. So now I want to project some content, but I need to check that it was passed to the component. Because if it wasn't passed, I want to render the old share button. If it was passed, I want to render it instead. So how could we do it? I mean, we don't have any variables here which we can do if clauses with it. Well, we can use something really cool called content child, in which we can specify a child component to get a reference of. We can get other stuff too, but for now we want references. So I'm saying that I want to select a child component which is a template. I'll call this variable other default action, and this will be a template reference for HTML elements. And so now if I passed a template as the child for this component, this variable would have it. And now I can do it if I have other default action ref. I can render things conditionally. So let's try it. Let's see the text feed item. We would pass here, we would pass a template. I'm kind of assuming that you guys, whoever already worked with Angular, knows what a template is. Here we would pass the new default action button. Say the thumbs up button. Okay. I'm passing it to the feed item component. And now I can do logic. And now the feed item component, when it renders this specific post, will have the reference here. So I can do the following. I can use a container to render it. And if I have the reference, I want to render what's inside this container. So inside the container, I'll place the template that I passed. And to do it, we can use the ng template outlet directive and render the new default action template. And there we go. Here it is. But I'm still rendering the share button. They're both here. And we don't want to do it. We want to render the share button only if we don't have the other default action. So what we can do is we can wrap the share button in the template, because templates in Angular aren't rendered unless you tell Angular to do so. A bit here. So if we place the share button here and we save, the share button will be gone, but it wouldn't appear in the image component too. Now we can use else. If we don't have the new button reference, we can render other content instead. So let's call this the default action. And if I don't have the reference, I can render the default action, which is the share button. And there we go. So for posts that don't have an override for the default action, it will show share. But for ones that do provide it, like the text component here, it will show the one you passed. So that's conditional projection. And that's about it. I mean, it was supposed to be basic, just so everyone can get a basic grasp of how projection works. There's still a lot to learn about it. That was just a quick intro. And, well, if anyone has questions or suggestions or has something to teach me about content projection, feel free to reach out for me in Discord. Okay? So that's it. Bye, everyone.